Yes, I can unpause the recording. So
All right, thank you.
How am I the host? Why don't you make me the co-host?
Yeah, he's not qualified for host position yet, Bob.
I don't think I'm qualified for host position.
I think you can handle this group.
That means I can mute.
He's got one more test to pass before we can.
I have to be a 9th degree or 10th degree to be a host.
Hey, Paul, tell us about all that cash I saw that picture of.
Oh yeah, that was a la Grandmaster Smith letter. It wasn't an enormous amount, but it was. I'll take it. It was about $6,000, and we
Yeah,
made.
You see how picky we get these days?
Right.
Oh man,
yeah,
I'm disappointed.
It was $6,000, but you know, the cool part was it was cash. I mean, it was cash. I mean, we don't see that anymore. You know, I mean, because we're in a big coin shortage now. So, but. Yeah, that was a nice little surprise, and so you know, we got the letter together. We you know, made sure our numbers were on point, and then the guys, we had to make a list of, you know, prospects, people that had good payment history, engaged with the school, good attendance, A students, and we just sent the letters out, and then we followed up with you know, with phone calls.
Awesome.
And I guess the lesson that we had, it was a good eye-opener for the guys, 2 people that were on the list, I should say one family that had 2 students, this is where the money came from, and they opted for the pay the next 12 months in full. So one of my guys was pre-framing the family. Well, you know, I don't know if they're going to be able to do it. Let's just concentrate on the one person, one kid. So as he was making the presentation to the mom in the office, she was like, well, what about my other son? Does this apply to him? Oh yeah, of course. Okay. Then she started peeling off the money. It's so, you know, don't judge a book by its cover kind of thing.
Yeah, I never try to read their minds.
Yeah. So thank you, sir.
The way I always say that to my staff too, that kind of seems to resonate, is don't be prejudiced. And that's, well, what do you mean I'm not prejudiced? You know, that sounds like I'm racist or something, or I'm prejudiced. But really, you're being prejudiced if you think that the person can't afford it, or you think that they're not going to want their other kid to do it, or you think that, you know, it's like you're really, and prejudice means prejudging. You're prejudging that's what the word means, and you're prejudging that somebody coming in with a Porsche would be different than somebody driving in a you know, Prius. It's a different the guy with the inexpensive, well, Prius isn't really inexpensive, but the guy in an inexpensive car, you know, they may be saving their money, and we've gotten a lot of paid in fulls from in my neighborhood in Arizona from Hispanic families. Master Oliver's talked about that a lot in Colorado, from that are, you know, they get cash, you know, from the work they do, and they keep their money, you know, at home and cash. You know, I remember getting wads of cash from somebody who wanted to pay in full because they wanted to save the money. And the other thing to not prejudge, I think, is really important, and I have to hammer my staff in this, especially when Grandmaster Smith's talking about the paid in fulls. It's a better deal for them. You know, the idea that we do this and we're getting money, it feels like there's this imbalance of we won the deal, like we won.
Right.
Yeah, does that make sense? I mean, like we kind of got something from them, but no, they got something from us too. We both won. It's definitely a win-win situation. They absolutely saved some money. We know they're more likely to complete the program and get their second-degree black belt. We made more cash up front, so we know that that's going to be a more positive thing from our business point of view. It's a complete win-win all over. So. If it wasn't kind of imbalanced in how we run our business, it would be better if we did this for everybody, but it kind of unbalances our business if we did that. So, but it's definitely a win-win in every way to look at it. So,
and I'm sure we all have those stories, but the one that taught us a lesson many years ago, and it might be even going on 30 or 40 years now, but I still remember this because it opened all of my staff's eyes as well as mine. You know, I had a family we were talking to about renewing, and the father never came in, and it was always the mom bringing. And so I asked her if she could have the dad come in so I could explain it all to him firsthand. So, it didn't go all, the wife trying to explain it. And so he comes in and he looks like he just came off the construction site and, greasy, dirty. It's like he was in the ditches or something, right? So now I'm trying to tell him about the $1,000 down payment. And then the monthly payment at that time wasn't even as high as we go now, but it was at least $100 more than what he was paying. So I'm kind of like, yes. And the value of the program, and I went into that, and then I said, and this is a down payment. And I said, and we can split that up, or we can even do a partial down payment and put that in, finance that in with the program. I was trying to come up with it all thinking that he didn't have two nickels to rub together, right? And he goes, well, she loves it. My wife is really impressed with the program. So is there a discount if I pay it in full? And I said, the down payment? He said, no, the whole thing. And I said, well, yes, sir. We do a 20% discount on that. And he said, okay, well, how much would that be? I wanted to just give him the discount. I said, well, that's going to save you. And he said, well, how much would I have to pay? And then I gave him the number. And back then it was probably like 12,000 or something with our pricing was so low. And we used to only do a 4-year program. And he pulls out this wad of cash and whips off all those hundreds and pays the whole thing in full.
Nice.
I give him his uniform and threw in, I don't know, whatever I could find in the closet. I was giving him all these extra, put a bag together and was throwing stuff in it for her. But we all had a good laugh about that one. So you just never know.
It was a good thing, and it was a good shot in the arm for the staff too, because that same day they renewed 3 people for leadership.
And then it's like those good vibes that create more good vibes, and it just keeps rolling. It's like the expression, when it rains it pours, right?
Yeah, it's you just got to do a couple deals like that every now and then, and it brought everybody back. And I mean, they've been doing really good, but nothing like seeing something like that. It brought it back. And then I kept milking it to the guys. I said, well, these people love what you're doing. Obviously, you're great employees. You're making a difference. I said, nobody peels off a couple grand like that if they don't believe in you. Keep it going.
And that's the time to tell the staff. And I always try to reiterate that with the staff. I'm not telling them that because I'm bragging because I collected that money. I tell them that the reason they paid that money is that those kids were so happy in the class, and the parents knew that they were going to stick with it because you've been teaching such good classes.
Right.
And no matter how good a salesman I might be, if you weren't teaching those great classes, there's no way we would have gotten that. So thanks a lot, guys. And, pat on the back. And that's
exactly what I did.
Here's a little bonus to go buy dinner with your wife and whatever.
And I would just tell everybody, when you send the letter out and then you go talk to the people, sometimes it requires 2 or 3 times talking to people, or just, catching them, because maybe they're not in the right mood when you catch them. And when your staff isn't used to, and Paul, it doesn't sound like, I don't know, from your conversations, it sounds like maybe they're still a little bit uncomfortable asking for pay in fulls as sort of a regular part of their
a little bit. You're right. You're on target with that. They really are. I mean, they'll yes me to death. And they'll say, no, we understand. But when push comes to shove, they're still a little apprehensive. Like one guy, I had to step on him last week because when we were going over the letter and who we're going to talk about, and I said, well, let them know that they can still make monthly payments on their credit card, a la GM Smith. And the guy looks up at me and goes, wow, that's really shady. So I stopped and I go, shady? I go, how is that shady? Oh, just that whole approach is shady. I go, well, let me get this straight. I said, we're going to discount a program. They're going to save money. School's going to get an infusion of cash, which wouldn't hurt right about now. And if I remember right, I go, don't you guys get bonus?
Commissions.
I go, so how is that I go, enlighten me. I go, maybe I'm stupid. I said, how is that shady? Well, no, just the whole idea. And again, the one guy I'm thinking of, he keeps projecting his thoughts. Well, I wouldn't do that. And I'm like, it ain't about what you would do. It stop.
Well, that's not my friend, is it?
No, it was the other guy.
Oh no, he was always the most positive.
Yes, and I was like, I said, guys, come on, are you trying to piss me off? Come on.
See, my solution to that is maybe a little different from other people's. I think the solution to that is repetition and training, and accountability. So if every month they have a list where they have to, is Master Smith's talking about too, they've got a list of like 7 or 8 to 10 people that they've got to talk to. And that at the meetings, you're asking them about the list, how many of you talked to, what's the result? And if the result is I talked to 10 people and I didn't get any, then what do you have to do? Well, what happened? And you role play what happened because they didn't do a good job. Either they didn't do a good job or they didn't pick the right people. I mean, it's possible they were just 0 for 10 and they did a good job and they picked the right people. It's possible, but it doesn't hurt to role play it anyway then. Right. So the training would be okay. Just like if you went to a tournament and you fought some matches and you lost them all, you might have done everything you possibly could, but it still wouldn't hurt to go train. Like you probably should go train anyway. So, and even if you won, you should, but that's a different story. So if they say, well, it's shady or see, I kind of like, don't even bother having the emotional conversation about that. I mean, it's okay to do that. But my view of that is
not have that emotional conversation.
Yeah,
if they say that, I have to enlighten them pretty quick.
Well, I don't even talk about I don't even give them an opportunity to have the conversation. The rule is we have this many we have to do. We have to talk to this many people. What I can control is how many people they talk to. And now if they lie and they don't talk to them, that's a different situation. They could lie. Then I have to confirm that another way. But, everybody should have this as a regular thing. I guess that's back to my point. If it's unhealthy to do these paid in fulls, if you're going to do that, I'm only doing that when I get around to like thinking about it and Grandmaster Smith tells me to send a letter. So I do it in August. Or it's unhealthy to do it. I need cash. It's unhealthy to do it during the blitz only. It should just be a regular thing that you do on a regular monthly basis. If you do that, you're going to catch people that it's the right time in their month, in their year. And it's not
only 5% of your student body. And, you have to realize that if you pick the best 5% of your student body, that there's going to be at least 5% that it's going to be a good fit for.
Well, yeah, some people,
but 5% is easy.
Yeah, it's very frequent that for some people during a year, it might be the right time 20% of the year that they really feel like doing it. And the other 80%, maybe they were distracted. They got a lot going on in their life. It may not even be a financial thing. I'm just busy with stuff. So I don't really want to talk about it right now. And I don't really feel like giving you $8,000 or $20,000 or something, but the other 20%, I'm kind of calm enough to have the conversation. So it's got to be just a regular thing. And if you do that, then your staff kind of can't avoid doing these things. And I think the same thing is for renewals. If they're not doing renewals regularly and they think, well, I really want them to do it longer before we ask them to renew and move to leadership, or if it's not like a regular thing that they're supposed to talk to them at this time and talk to them at this time and talk to them at this time. So they have repetition. That repetition and training burns those prejudices out of them, I think.
Yeah, no, you're probably right. Because I think everybody's personal mindset, relationship, whatever you want to call it, regarding money plays into it. And that's with this individual. And I've had to talk with him before, if that's how you run your finances in your house, don't just assume everybody's doing the same thing.
Well, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but my whole conversation right now is stop having those conversations. I don't have this.
Don't you think it's got to be addressed?
No, I don't give a shit what their conversation is at home. I don't care what they do with their finances. I don't give a shit about it. So let me be really clear about it. I don't care what they do at home. Now, that doesn't mean if they come into my office crying about their life, I don't have I got a counseling
You
certificate.
just tell them, I don't give a shit. Get out of here.
Yeah, I don't. No, if they come into my office crying, they know they can come to me and talk about their personal life. But when it's what's they have to do for their job,
Right.
the key is that let's just use this example. And I think this is important for this call in this kind of meeting. If you regularly ask for paid in fulls, and every month they've got a target to meet and they're supposed to do it, and you train on how to ask for paid in fulls and they're supposed to do it and you regularly get them, then it burns out that, well, yeah, but I don't really know if I like doing it. And all those conversations in their head get wasted, get pushed aside. It'd be like if I don't like sweeping the floor at home the way that you want it swept at the school, but every day I have to sweep it the way that you tell me to sweep it. It doesn't matter if I'm a slob at home. I'm going to sweep the floor the way you tell me to sweep it because, it's the way I do it every day. And if you don't do it that way, then Paul's going to get mad at me for doing it. And that's just the way we do it. It's collective education. And I've told you guys this before, the number one predictor of training or of education, they do this in, this research was done like in educating kids about safe sex. The number one predictor is not education or motivation, like telling them why they should do it because they're going to get pregnant or they're going to have STDs. The number one predictor is that they think everybody else is doing it, that their colleagues are doing it. So if the group thinks that everybody else is, being safe, then the rest of the group will be safe. If the group thinks that nobody's
It's kind of
bothering,
like wearing masks.
right? Exactly like wearing masks. Exactly like wearing masks now. So Paul, if they're regularly doing it and the whole group's doing it and they have to do it and it's kind of what you ask them about every week and whatever, occasionally those kind of things will come up and the guy says, well, I think it's shady. Okay, let's practice it. Let's practice the script. Whatever. You have a problem, whatever, but you still have to do it, right? Mm-hmm. So if you start addressing those emotional issues, you're not their problem is their problem. When we start having those conversations, you're constantly going to be chasing this stuff and you're constantly going to you're allowing them to have the excuse of their opinion controls what your business system is. And you have to convince them that your business system is right. And that's irrelevant. Now, their personal life, you can be a great mentor for them. Those are two separate things though. That's what I'm saying. It sounds like I'm telling you, you can't listen to them and deal with their life and be a really good mentor to them. That's not true at all. You can have a conversation, you close the office door, they can,
So it's okay to give a shit?
It's okay to give a shit, but they have to follow your damn system,
Can I add something? I think we beat that one to death. Can I, what I like about what Paul's people did is they clicked on one of the three major things that give you record months. What I always had a problem with my staff is that they would do really well on one of the three money motivators, right? One is enrollments, one is renewals, and one is paid in fulls. That's where the money comes from. I don't even count in our billing because that's there. We know we've got to collect that, so we're never going to miss that. But the three big things are, every month when I see we have a lot of enrollments, I guarantee you we're going to have one of our lowest renewals. And I guarantee you when we have the highest renewals, that's pretty much, you can be assured that our enrollments are down low. Because what they do, there's not any traffic coming in on the intros and enrollments. So they're trying to find a way to get the gross up. So they go over and start, talking to renewals, or they either get sidetracked. They have a one-track mind. They have to really learn how to multitask on building the gross. And of course, the gross comes in from our billing, but that should be automated. But that doesn't mean that we don't follow up on it. There are some people that leave a lot of money on the table because they didn't keep good tabs on their delinquent accounts or dropouts. So, you know, that all comes into play too. But the three big things are, show me a school that has a good, solid number of enrollments. In the same month, they have some solid renewals, and they even got some paid in fulls in there. And I guarantee you, you're going to have one of your record months or one of your best months of the year. So you just got to learn how to put all three of those together. Don't just focus on one thing. You know, sometimes when I was pushing a little more on the paid in fulls, they would get the paid in fulls and our gross would go up, but then our enrollments and renewals were down low. And I'm going like, and then it's hard to bitch at them because the gross is higher than it was. And so you got to pat them on the back, but then you need to kick them in the butt because they dropped the ball on the intro and enrollment and renewal process. So make sure they're hitting on all of those cylinders if you want to have your really, really solid months.
Thank you, sirs.
Yeah. All right, guys. What other things did you guys want to cover here? Now that Paul got everything solved. Now he's going to be mean to his staff because I told him.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody's muted, or they'd be asking you right now, Master Rudy.
Yeah, they don't want to say anything to me.
They're afraid you're going to not give a shit.
Instead of being mean to everybody.
I can ask something. So we did really well with the renewals in the very beginning of switching to virtual, but of our new students that have come on solely virtual, we're not solely virtual, but since everything, we've been struggling to renew them. And I know part of it, the biggest part of it is we're not having the parents in the building. And so I know where I'm working with some of our staff to set with all of them. And then, like you said, Master Moody, to start having regular set meetings every few weeks, just as progress checks and goal setting meetings and things like that. Does anyone have any suggestions, anything that's been working well for them with keeping the relationship strong with the parents when they're training virtually?
Rachel, can I ask you something on your Zoom setup when you're teaching classes to the beginners? Are you having the parents interact with the class much, or the instructors asking the parents to interact with the class much? I think with Zoom, it's harder to force. You've got to force yourself to do that. That's one factor, at least, that I would. And by the way, we're realizing this too, because it's real easy for the parent to set their kid up and then go in the kitchen and go somewhere else and go in another spot. So they don't have to interact or see the class or see the instructor teach. So I don't know if anybody else, I'd really like to hear from the rest of you guys if you've done some other stuff. So we're noticing that, and we're trying to force the parent into the conversation during the class. If they're not taking class, ideally they'd take class, but if they're not, then that becomes an easy way for them to abdicate their responsibility. If they have to drop the kid off, they're physically there, so at least we have some interaction.
Yeah. We've been allowing our white belt parents to come into the studio, and now it's trying to change their mindset and encourage them to come in when they're used to not coming in, like, just sitting in their car or whatever, just so we can have some of that engagement. Even because the ones that are coming in too, it's not as bad as the one who are virtual because they do have, that drop off interaction at least a little bit, but.
And I'll tell you what the problem is, Rachel, and it could snowball for a lot of people if they don't jump on it now. They're used to the renewal process. Our members that are used to that process are so used to parents come in, the kids come in, now they give them some extra attention or spotlight them, give them extra stripes because they handed in their sheets in front of the class. Everybody's clapping for them. How many have set their goal? You give them a visualization sheet. They get one of the invitations, that says that they have been recommended for black belt leadership training. That whole process, when it's in person, it's a lot stronger. When it's and that's because the parent is there being in part of it. Now, we always had trouble with those parents that never showed up, that just dropped their kids off to get those kids in that renewal process. And the way that we found out that worked best was when we still went through all those steps, you know, sent home the visualization sheet to do and do our normal steps of spotlighting them. But one of the things that you have to do is you have to have a conference with the parent going over a progress evaluation to let mom know how well Tommy's doing and how he, you just gave him this visualization sheet because a few of our students are selected as part of our black belt leadership. We're looking for our future black belts and our future leaders, and not everybody at that white belt level is recommended. So we're looking for those top ones that are already showing those leadership qualities. And I just wanted to let you know that Tommy was one of those. And he's been invited to try out one of our classes for that. So it's going to be a 15-minute block, and then we'll set up the time, right? And that should be with the other ones that are in there, or with the virtual, we can even do it separately and say, when would be a good time that you could be on that? And then I take Tommy through something, and it could be the foam chucks that I sent home with him, or whatever we're going to do that's fun, right? We got to do something exciting. And that's why if you give them a pair of those foam chucks, I find that that's the easiest to maneuver at home. It takes up the smallest room. They're foam, so they're probably not going to hurt themselves, you know, et cetera, et cetera. But go through all of those steps that you normally do. Make sure they're engaged. They have stripes on their belt like normal. I mean, you got to have your list like normal, the way you're qualifying them, but then you got to make sure the parents engaged by setting up a special progress evaluation to let them know how well Tommy's doing. Now, it could be you're going to do that progress evaluation because Tommy hasn't been engaged in the character worksheets. And it could be that we're not emphasizing and making a big enough deal. Like, it's pretty easy to do it live in class. Sometimes over virtual, it loses the impact because they're not actually getting the stripe right there in front of everybody. That's why I like them to send those, email those sheets in so we can print them off and then have them right in front of us and call them out and then put their stripes together in their envelope, and they'll either pick them up or you'll mail them, and make sure that we know who is engaged in that and who is not, because those that are not, it's harder to tell when they're virtual because it's harder to see the belts and all the little stripes, whereas when they're standing in front of you, it is. So every single class, we've got to beat it in their heads that when we're handing out those stripes, that guys, now remember, this is one of our most important things we're doing on our journey to black belt. These are black belt life skills. And that's what these character worksheets are for, is to teach you good habits. And remember, it's part of your requirement to go to your next belt level. I see some of you are not doing them as much, but let's give, look at all these that got theirs today. Let's give them a big hand, because he's proving to me already that he's training like a black belt, because our future black belts are the ones that are going to be doing and developing these life skills and blah, blah, blah. You see how that kind of pep talk goes? So I almost said at the end of the class, I got to do a little oversell on the pep talk, because I think it gets a little watered down in the virtual format versus live. We could probably not hit it as hard and it would still make the same impact. You follow me?
Yes, sir.
And I think if you follow that system, and it might take a one or two private progress things with the parent, and don't wait till even you're ready to renew them to do that first progress check. I've got to know in the first 3 or 4 weeks who has not been getting stripes, and I need to set up a progress check for them to let the parents know how important it is to do those worksheets and make sure they understand the importance of it and how it goes hand in hand with the program. You follow me?
Yes, sir.
Because it's that old prevention versus cure. you know, we get down to testing time when a lot of people try to do their first go at them on a renewal, and then they realize they're not engaged. They don't have many stripes. Well, kind of hard to get them engaged in the next 1 week, right? So, you know, that at that first 3 or 4 weeks, you know, that has to be the kind of first mile marker checklist that we're going to see if they're going to be a prospect for a renewal. And if they aren't, we still have time to make them a prospect. You follow me? The others might have picked it up enough just from being in the class, either live or virtual, and they're doing it. And you should kind of keep track of who's getting what stripes. And I would even make it such a big deal is that I would do a little inventory and say, okay, class, we're doing a little check today. What I need to know from everybody, just by a show of hands, how many of you have less than 5 stripes on your belt? And then you see these hands go up, okay? How many of you have more than 5? You know, or maybe start off with more than 5, right? And then you kind of posited them way up, and then maybe somebody has 10. Well, let's give them a big hand. They've already had enough to graduate, but you see, that's not what we're looking for, just enough to get by. We're looking for the ones that are starting to train like a black belt, because remember, we give a medal when you fill out a sheet completely, but we're going to give trophies to those that get the most stripes, because those are our students that are showing to us that they have what it takes to be a black belt, because that's what a black belt does. He goes above and beyond what's even asked of him. He doesn't always just do enough to get by. Doing that doesn't make you a black belt. You see, so we might have to give one of those in there, but you see how I kind of oversold it even a little bit, but it's virtual, so it gets watered down. It's not like if they were in person, that might be even too much maybe, right? But they need that kind of pep talk, because we don't have them on a daily basis now. Because what I used to do is I'd just walk around and look at their belt, and then I would just say something to them privately. And if we do it on a virtual environment, we just need to find out, because we don't see their belts necessarily, or get a good look at them, or maybe they didn't even put them on yet, right? Because I've seen that happen. That one kid had a lot of stripes in his envelope but didn't put them on yet, and it looked like he didn't have many stripes. So, you know, we make sure you put your stripes on as soon as you get them, etc. Does that help, Rachel?
Yes, sir.
I'm wondering what everybody else is doing in the group, because you're getting a lot of repetitions of working with these kids to help enhance the virtual training. I mean, I can give you some feedback on what we're doing, but I'd really like to know what the other guys are doing for enhancing instruction that might lead to renewals, because you're working on Zoom and in a hybrid environment as well.
I think one of the things that's helped us is our program directors. And I don't know if you guys have this where your program directors are on the Zoom call watching the class, but the program directors really are involved in a couple levels. Number one, they have to do the attendance, obviously checking them in, but the program directors are also in charge of making sure that they are taking notes down for each of the kids and helping make sure that they get stuff sent in the mail and all that other stuff. But then they also are setting up appointments, Zoom appointments with the parents. So they'll keep them after class and they'll say, hey, Johnny, is your mom around? And so the program directors are prompting meetings with the parents on a Zoom call. That's one of the things that we've done that's helped. And it's with everybody. So it's not just your renewal candidates, but it's, you know, a retention tool. So they're going in and double checking everybody. And so we also implemented 2 weeks ago, making sure that they are ABCing after every day. So they're going in and they're ABCing them, and they're doing it just for the simulcast people that are virtual, and then they're ABCing them separately, because we're trying to ABC, our ABC criteria has parent involvement. You know, if parents aren't showing up, if they're not bringing them in, I don't care what the kid is, if they're a, you know, A+ rock star student, our criteria is that they do not get an A unless we get the parents to A. And so in order to get the parents to A, they have to, making sure that their attendance or they're watching their kids. And with the virtual thing, that is hard, but we still are prompting them to give them that feedback. One of the things that I thought I would try to implement, I just got this idea yesterday, so maybe you guys might have some feedback on it, but I went to, pick up my dog at doggy daycare, and when I picked them up, they gave me a little report card, if the dog did this and he played with this dog and it was something simple, but it was a little piece of paper that I thought it was pretty cool that if we had that for both the virtual as well as the other ones. And so when we're sending out those letters, we include maybe a report card or something like that.
God forbid we treat our kids better than we treat the dogs.
Right. And that's where I was like, it was pretty cool because I got that, and I'm proud of my dog and he's fun, but I read through the whole thing. Like, he played nice with this.
Happier to get that about his dog than for his kids, but that you don't want to say that out loud, but it's okay.
Exactly. So I just thought, hey, it might be a cool idea where we have these little half sheets that we have the program directors that are watching and checking the kids and are taking notes on that. And they say, Johnny did a great job in class today. We noticed he did this, this, and this, because the parents aren't. The parents are down doing laundry or they're running around and they're not watching it. And then if they're dropping their kids off, they're certainly not seeing it, but that would be for the assistant instructors to be doing and filling out. And when they go to get their kids, give them the report card as a little, thing. And it doesn't have to be maybe 100%, but at least giving them a report card like once a week or once a month, I think might be.
Greg, we do that with the little kids. And you might try something that's a checkbox thing too, in circles, because then they can circle stuff really quick. Because as you raising quantity and number of students, and you're trying to do that with a lot of them, then they can circle some stuff and sign it. And then there's still a place for notes. And you can tell the instructors they can write a note, but now they can real quickly circle some important stuff. And then one of them could be next appointment. So you could have a pull-off tab. And personally, I like to do that. Where'd I put those on sticky notes? I think I posted on the Facebook group. I've shown you guys those 4x6 sticky notes you can get printed full color, and it's super cheap. And you can get if you come up with a nice form that you like eventually, then you can do those on sticky notes, and then they pad them up. They're automatically padded, and then they can give them to them if they're handed out. Or you could, if you're going to email them to them because they're virtual, you could email them to them.
Do you know off the top of your head the name of that company that you do this?
Dude, it's buried, and I haven't had to print them in a long time because I ordered like thousands and thousands of them. Doggone it. I think if you just do a sticky note, 4x6 sticky note, and they, like, all the companies are full color. I just don't have it. Where the hell did I put it? I have it here. I showed somebody the other day. But I think you guys have seen it. Could have sworn it was right here. Master Oliver sent me all these packages of stuff, and I put them on my pile of things here. And then I rearranged my desk, and I can't find anything. But it's 4x6 sticky notes, white paper, and then they'll print. The idea is they print your, it's like if you wanted from the desk of something and it's color, but you can use I figured out that you can use the entire space of the whole sticky note. So for the same price. So it's like 3 cents per paper, which is like the paper cost. And you can have those printed up. We use them for, if the staff has nothing to do, my checklist for what to do when there's nothing to do says go flyer cars. So we send them, the teenagers, and we send them across the street to put sticky. It's better than flyering cars because those fall off of under their windshield. So they stick them right on the driver's side window. That's what the sticky notes do. So we don't really like them to do that. We'd rather them do other stuff, but I bought like 50,000 of those. So they've got.
Is this it, Mastermind?
That's the company. Yeah, that's the company. Thank you, Bob. Awesome job.
Good job, Bob.
That's one of the companies, but you can find other companies, and it's like super cheap to get a bunch of those. So I've used those for lots of things. We use those for when they get their stripes. We call them stars, but they're still stripes. They have a star on them, and not for those paper. We use American tape for that. But we have a form that the parent fills out when they want to give them a special one. We use the sticky note thing for that. So we use them for lots of forms because it's so doggone cheap. You just got to get the quantity up, but who cares? then you got a box full of them, have to replace them. The only trick is make sure it's the form you like before you order 50,000 of them, even though it's not all that expensive. So for you guys on this call, it's a good use of time. Yeah. What was the search term to get that, Bob?
Sticky note.
There you go. Wasn't hard to figure out. Okay, that's why I found it so fast. But anyway, sorry to interrupt you, Greg. Those are great things.
No, I think that was just a little quick one that I think, but I think the ABCing is really our biggest success. We are, anytime I get them focused on those lead and lag measures of, are you ABCing 100%? Because they will say, oh yeah, we're doing it, but I'm like, if you're not doing it on a nightly basis anymore, especially with the virtual and stuff, it just gets swept under the rug. They don't do it. So
back to basics, Greg. You're right. I mean, and some of the things we're talking about, I think since COVID hit, almost all the things that cause us problems when we have breaks is we didn't do the basics. And Rachel, your question is a really good question. It's really, how can we do the basics that we can't quite get figured out because we're not having the same contact that we had. So it's a reasonable issue. We don't have the same contact we had. So how do we do the same basics that we had, the same system we had? In Greg's case, that's a perfect point. How do we ABC everybody? And then how do we make the same contact and have the same relationship we had, but we don't have the same personal one-on-one interaction we had? So how do we create that? I think Greg's got some really good feedback on it.
We've been doing a couple things which you guys may be doing as well, but one, for the kids that are coming into class live, of course, we make sure that the parents have the Zoom link because we're simulcasting, and we get a lot of parents that are involved that way. The parents at home, we started doing more pad work in the class. One, because, well, it's just a good thing to do. But two, then we tell the parents at home that they're going to need to hold for their kids. And they're welcome to come in and get some pads or targets if they want to. If not, they can do it, hold a pillow or something. But that gives them a reason why they have to be paying attention to class.
We mailed them all x-ray paper.
Yeah, well, we could, yes. Okay.
So the x-ray paper is pretty cheap. It's just functional to mail.
Sure.
Mail with
and then, of course, we're setting up regular Zoom progress checks, which, quite honestly, those are a lot easier to set up for us than the on-site ones. So that's been good, and walking the kids out to cars when necessary and meeting with the parents. So again, you may be doing all those things now, but those are just a couple of things we're doing.
I think walking the kids out to cars is a big one. So you do the checkout, they have to be walked out. Our rule, I've been hammering for years with everybody here, that we don't allow any kid to be dropped off and picked up from the parking lot. They have to be escorted in by the parents, but that kind of gets broken down in this situation. At least, you kind of get the parent that just shoves them in the school because we don't want them physically to cause traffic issues. We still tell them they have to escort them in to get their card and put it on the table that we have. And then they have to leave. So but walking them out, escort them out so you can have a conversation with them would help. That's a good one, Tim.
Pad work and things, giving the parents a reason, why they need to be paying attention, seems to be helping with their engagement. Because just telling them or doing it because they should, that works for the same ones that it works for when we were on site with everybody.
What's the reason you're giving them?
That we're doing pad work, so they need to actually be there holding
for the ones
or a pad or something for their child at home.
Yeah. And if you send them I like sending them the x-ray paper because it gives me another excuse to mail them something.
Okay.
We mailed them also a progress check form. You guys have seen the progress check forms we use.
Mm-hmm.
They fill out some information. Then we do the past, present, future thing, the Dickens thing that I taught you guys in the back. So we mail that to them every testing cycle. So we have to do it too, because normally we do that at the belt graduation, but we mail it to them, and then they have to fill it out and text it back to us. So anytime I have an excuse to mail them something, that's another contact excuse. So we're looking for contact excuses. You call them reasons, that sounds better, but contact excuses. And mailing them the x-ray paper is nice. X-ray paper is fun to hold. It's easy to hold. The parents can't screw it up as much as like a pillow or a pad or whatever. That's why I personally like the x-ray paper. It's kind of hard to mess it up. Amanda, did you have anything to add on there? Everybody, we pitched in. Did you have anything to add on to, I think it's really valuable information to share about how to make connection during this time.
Yeah, I think everything that everybody's been saying, I've been taking notes. It's just good stuff, like you said, back to the basics. How do you do what you were doing in a different environment? So it sounds like everybody's, everybody found a piece that they were missing that they could plug in. But I think the thing that I've been trying to do the most is just communication, and then in any way that I can. But it sounds like that's something everybody else is doing too. We have a little bit different situation than I think most of the schools, because we can have the parents come in. So our parents are in the building, especially for the beginners class. And so it's a little bit different than maybe if you can't have them come in.
So you can follow your system that you had before a little bit easier than if it wasn't that way.
Right. I still have, I've got 30 students who are strictly on Zoom still. And so there's still quite a bit of potential to make sure I communicate with them. And then most of our new students, though, are in person. I've got about four enrollments of the last 60 days that have been virtual only. We're pretty much in person now.
Okay. So one option is you drive them in physically so that you can have the interaction. The puzzle to solve would be for example, if somebody wanted to do, we're experimenting with it. We've got some people that we've enrolled that are 25, 30 miles away in Phoenix. So we're experimenting with what if this would be growing and we expand the market, and that's a little bit of an open question. One thing, I'll share a couple of things that we're doing, and it kind of refers back to that seminar that I mentioned. Well, how do I teach one of these 4 seminars, big seminars I do, and engage them? Because as I said, the purpose of it is to renew everybody, which means we should make a lot of money. So if we're going to make a lot of money, part of the deal is I'm not just teaching class, but we have to break the parents off to do sales. So the solution we came up with was we're requiring and forcing all the parents to have a separate Zoom link. So this might be relevant for what you guys are talking about as well. We're going to have a landing page where they go in and there's the regular, they won't know it's the regular link, but there's the link for the student and the link for the parent. And the parent's going to have a separate Zoom link to register and check in. So we're going to have a big process at the beginning. So when they register, if the student comes in, we're going to talk to the student and go, hey, where's your mom? Because the class has to be with the parent and the kid. When I teach the class, none of you guys have had me do the class, but if Matt was here, he would tell you. So the parents are all required to be there too. What we're hoping from there is we're training the parents so that they can come in with their own Zoom link to the regular class. So let's say they were virtual, they could be in their office and be watching class as well. But if you forget that for just a second, so for this one seminar, we can have the parents on one Zoom link and the kids on another, both watching class. And then we can breakout room all the parents over here and show them a different video and then have them talk to me while we're doing something with the kids, and then we can switch it. Then when we're doing the sales portion of it, where we're breaking out them individually and they're talking to maybe individually to Master Sanborn about their renewal or whatever they need to do next, then they're automatically going to be on their own Zoom link. Otherwise, it would never work because, they couldn't be broken out. We couldn't take the parent aside to talk to them about a sale. Does that make sense? So we're going to have, it should be very simple for them as long as they have their own Zoom, they have a separate Zoom account. So they need 2 Zoom accounts, one for their kid, one for them, which is free. So it's easy to set up. So we're spending the next 2 weeks getting this, promoting what we're trying to do. It's a little complicated, right? So what we're trying to do is not simple. We've got to kind of educate them over the next couple weeks. So this is an experiment. So I'll let you know how it goes. If it's successful, then what we'll do is potentially when parents are watching class, if they're virtual, then Rachel, kind of what you would be thinking about is you could have the beginner parents, you could say, beginner parent, you have to watch class, and we would want you to be on a separate, Zoom link, so that, because what we notice mostly is the kids in class and the parent is either off screen. If they're not participating, then they're off screen. So we can't really have communication with the parent. It's not like when they're in the parent waiting area and we can interact with them a lot. So the parent would be there, and then the kid would be there, and then the parent would be on another, they'd just be another cell on the gallery mode, just like what you guys are. And then we could interact with the parents, and then it would be very easy to talk to the parents and interact with the parents and have them be part of it. And when they check in, especially in their first 6 classes, which is our target number, first six classes, in their first 6 classes, we always talk to them every class. And right now that's the problem, isn't it? In the first 6 classes, they disappear. Now we solve that now by, we always either call them or breakout room them after the class. But we want to do that. We want to be able to do that more simply and just pull them in because they're in a separate Zoom link. That probably sounds complicated, but we're trying to do it so that I can do this seminar that I want to do, and we may use it for these other reasons. So I don't know if that makes sense. Does that make sense? Kind of? Okay. I don't know if that'll be useful for this context that you're talking about, but did that help with some other ideas, Rachel?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, everybody. I have a lot of things these are my notes. So I got some good.
I just wanted to add, we're still, even though, like we've mentioned before, one of the benefits of the Zoom is that you can have both parents there. So that's something that we're really still utilizing and doing in our how's your child doing checkup or renewal meeting, still being able to utilize Zoom that way, just phone call and appointment instead of breaking them out in the class. I don't really have enough staff for that. So we just have to set up appointments at different times, but just still calling the parents, and would like to set up a time to do a progress check. And, you can do it that way over Zoom.
You mean so if 2 parents are in different places, or maybe they're divorced, or maybe something's going on, you can use Zoom for the progress check or the renewal conference.
Right.
I think it's great. I mean, the nice thing is coronavirus forced everybody to learn how to video conference. Right? And almost everybody used Zoom. I mean, I'm sure Zoom stock. I mean, I think Zoom stock, what was it? Zoom is worth more than like the top 7 airlines combined, partly because the top 7 airlines took a dive. But Zoom is luckily for us, really, it became a standard. If there were 12 competing video platforms and you had to go, okay, which one are you using? Are you using Skype? Are you using this one? Or using that one? It would be much more of a hassle. But almost everybody uses Zoom. So the nice thing for us is it did do that, and it makes it so much better than video, trying to do an audio conference call. It's so much more personal. So that is a really good point. And I think it's going to last for, probably forever, because eventually video calls were going to be a thing, but it might've been another 5 years before it became mainstream. So this is useful for us.
We started this week. We haven't done our first video, but going off of, I know Grandmaster Smith's big on the MVP of the, black belt test or whatever, and he'll highlight the kids that way. We're doing an MVP of the virtual or the simulcast classes. And so we're going to do a Facebook Live video at the end of the week. So I at the beginning of this week, I told all my instructors, you have be on the lookout, and you're going to have to vote at the end of the week with your assistants on who the MVP is, and they're going to do a big video. And I said select, a couple, 2 or 3 kids, and do a little broadcast and highlight them on Facebook and do a video of it and put it up there. So that might be another little piece to make that connection. We sat down last week and we said, what are the 6 basic human needs, and how do we, and I think we talked about this before, but my staff actually came up with a lot of really good ideas on how to reach, security is one of them, how to make them feel safe, how to improve their connection, the emotional reaction piece and stuff like that. So that might be just another little exercise to do with your staff to say, how do how do we in this new world connect with our parents better? And you'd be surprised what your staff will come up with.
Okay, yeah, that's a really good idea. Make sure the staff's involved in and some of the parents might have individual needs. They may have something when they came in that might be specific to them, both in terms of what their individual needs were and their logistics. There might be, as Amanda just said, there may be a 2-parent family, maybe a 4-parent family. There may be different situations that you can deal with. So when it was one-on-one, because that's more powerful because you're physically in the same space, you may have overcome the that's just a more powerful situation. But if there's 4 parents involved, because it's a divorce situation, you may need to reach out a lot more strongly to those people. Kind of going along with what Greg's saying, maybe it seems like an offshoot of what he's saying, but they may have more need to connect, and you may need to connect more strongly with all 4 of those parents in a different way, because they may all be separated too. They may not have their own interaction about what martial arts is doing for their kid, if that makes sense. They may not be talking about what's going on because they're not connected the same way they were before. Anyway, we're kind of right on time here. I would also mention, Greg, you should have them look at Maslow's hierarchy in terms of basic needs. That's the basic part of that. So interrelating those two together kind of gives you some power when you're having conversations with people, because they can relate to those things. Yeah, that would be cool.
And the other thing I would say to everybody is just, especially for Rachel, and you got to remember that the same steps that you did before at the school live that gave you good results is going to give you good results virtual. You're just going to have to do it differently. You still have to do the same steps. So some things have to be private, maybe a special, we go over to one of the other Zoom rooms, or you set up a special progress thing, but you still got to go through those same steps. You got to make sure they're engaged in doing all those steps. And then you're going to find that virtual is no different than the intros once we learned how to do them. You saw the intro was pretty much the same, but it was a different format, so you had to get used to it. So you have to kind of get your head around it. And once you do a few of them, but don't do ones that aren't set up, that aren't pre-framed down the line, because then you're setting yourself up for a non-renewal, and then that's gonna shake your confidence. So prep them and go through the steps, and then set them up and knock them down. Okay.
All right, guys. Yeah.
And I still give a shit, okay?
Yeah, except when you're not supposed to. Paul, you're too nice a guy. All right. Just have him talk to me. Just have him talk to me later. I've tried to fire so many people. Nobody ever lets me fire people.
Oh, you better lose that number, Paul.
Let me know. All right.
Take care, guys.
See you guys.
See you later. Great job, everybody. We'll see you later. Bye.